Good morning, all you Midwestern mages. My name is Broderick and I'd love to welcome you back to the Minnesota's Magic Podcast Show. Joining me, as always, are my two co-hosts. You know one of them as that Big Daddy Battlecruiser big boy, the biggest of the lads, the large fellow. I don't know, I just wanted to say big. That's Blake Cooper.
Heyo. I'm here. Heyo.
And joining us is our other co-host. We call him Zach Boardwhite Johnson.
Otherwise known as Elf Lord Zach. Hello, crowd. How are we doing today?
I like how you didn't comment that I fucked up your last name.
Zach Johnson.
It's Zach Johnson.
Yep, look it up.
They call him ZG or ZJ. I'm so tired. All right, but
Brody's been drinking before the podcast.
hey,
That's gonna be a fun one because we're all tired.
2 hours of sleep. Let's go. All right, but on today's episode, we're gonna be talking about some of our favorite decks, just in general, whether it be Commander, Modern, or whatever the hell we like playing. We're just gonna be talking about them because there's a little insight on us. So I guess I'll start it off then. If any of you actually want to go first.
I think I'm gonna steal it away from you, Brody.
Oh, he wants to go first. He wants the spotlight.
I want it. I want it bad.
All right.
All right, guys. So today we're talking about our favorite decks, as Brody has previously explained. Everybody else is going to probably be doing Commander decks, but my first love is Modern. Elves is my deck, black, green Elves. So to start out what the deck is, it's pretty limited on lands. So I have 4 Cavernous Souls. I have 4 forests. I have a Nykthos Shrine of Nyx. I have a Westvale Abbey, a 3 Blooming Marshes, and 4 Gitleaf Palaces. So that's my land base. So it's pretty limited compared to a lot of other decks. For sorcery or instance, we would have 4 Collected Companies, and we would have 2 Lead the Stampedes. And for creature base, we have Elvish Mystic and Llanowar Elves for the basic ramp. And then we would have Heritage Druid, which pairs into Dwynen's Elite to create more guys. And Metal Sentinel, when a green creature enters, it'll untap. So that's kind of how I get my unlimited mana base. And then if things are falling apart and I need to get a little more power in the game, we'll throw in Elvish Warmaster whenever an elf comes in. It'll create a little friend. And then it also has the power for 7, for 5 colorless, and 2 green to get +2/+2, and everything gains Death Touch. Another pump I like to do is Azuri. He's the main bread and butter for getting pumps in, +3/+3 for 2 colorless and 3 green, and they end up gaining Trample. If I need to pump a little bit more, which Elves loves to just get in those beats, to put Elvish Archdruid in there, which I have 4 of. And for each elf you have, you will get a green mana. If I'm looking for card draw, I'll do Elvish Visionary. But as of last night, those might be coming out because Blake will announce my new card that I think I will be switching those to.
I forgot what the card was called.
Well, basically what the card is it's 1 green, and whenever it attacks, it will untap any attacking creatures. So with that combination, basically that will have my Elvish Archdruids untap, so I can use all that mana again, and I can double pump into Azuri or Elvish Warmaster to get those bigger beats in. So once I look up the name again, that will be included probably for the Elvish Visionaries. For kind of the little tech that I like to do for fun, I do have 1 Reclamation Sage main board, just because there is a lot of artifact shenanigans right now still, or things that are going to still try to slow my deck down. So I do keep one of those in there if I need to pull out a win for the first game. And then my last is 4 Shaman of the Pax, which for each elf that is in play, when he enters, it'll deal 1 damage to the player directly. And that is kind of the main premise of the deck that I've chosen today. Basically, it's just beat down, throw a bunch of elves out, and that's kind of how I do my thing. And Blake has found the answer.
It is Copperhorn Scout. It's a 1/1 for 1 green that, as Zach previously said, it's whenever it attacks, untap each other creature you control for an elf scout. It was doing work in my conspiracy draft card deck.
Yeah, when I saw that thing in action last night, I was like, Jesus, like, how have I never even heard of this? And it's crazy because it's not even in any like main deck list, which I find crazy because this thing is disgusting. So basically, it just gives everything else vigilance.
Yeah,
so I mean,
it was pretty
you
sweet.
really can't go wrong with that. It's pretty good for one.
Or an additional chance to pump with Azuri, which is, like you said, your main win con. I've played against this deck many a times, and Azuri, when it's on the field, that's the problem. And then, it's not. Oh, geez, thundering out. Sorry. With
Hold on, did you
Kaldheim.
say that you are the storm?
Ha 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 ha.
I'm gonna kill myself.
Kaikar, the storm, something.
Oh, you don't get the joke.
Oh.
Don't worry, I'll send you a boatload of memes. Don't you worry, your precious little head.
Holy cow. Sorry, that thunder's really rolling. All right, but in Kaldheim, we got the Elvish War Master guy that made it so, if Azuri gets taken out, then you have your backup. The deck is very resilient. It pops off super fast. It's elves, and so they just all of a sudden it's like what is it, on turn 2 you usually have, on a pretty average basis, like 5 elves out.
Yeah, usually turn 2 or 3, I can just drop my whole hand basically, and then basically either swing in on turn 3 or go for a kill on turn 4 for sure.
And then the Westvale Abbey is a nice little include. I don't know if that's part of the meta, but that's a nice include because I know that card has also, like, all of a sudden you're like, I'm trying to deal with your board, and you're like, well, now I have a 9/7 flying giant demon
with flying, life leak, indestructible, and haste. So if I'm going against like a burn deck or something like that, where I'm just getting smoked to the face with lightning bolts and lava darts or whatever I'm getting hit with, it's a nice little thing because basically you have to exile it to get it off the board, or you have to destroy the land before it turns into the creature. So it gives me my life base, and it also is a little bit of help against flyers if I need to sacrifice 5 elves, which at that point, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's a fun deck to pilot, and it's a challenging deck to play against. It's if you've played against elves ever, it's what elves do, but I feel like you've got a little bit of a different take on it, and you've very well, like, mastered how to pilot it, like, your outs and all of that, and how to play the deck pretty well, because you've had that deck for a while. And you've got it all fancy foiled out, which is fun.
Yeah, this was kind of my love of labor. This is kind of really what got me in to Magic. I did start, I guess, playing Commander, but I saw this one kid at this game shop when I was in college, when I was kind of just first starting out. He had an elf deck, and I ended up playing. He gave me a deck to play with, and I played against it, and I was like, Jesus, I was like, this thing's crazy. Like, it just blows up out of nowhere, and there's nothing really you can do except for hold on for the ride and pray to God you're not going to die. So it's kind of
you have your fancy elf token too from the one little girl that plays elves. I can't remember what her name is.
Yep, Dana. She was, when I first heard about her, she was, I think, 7 years old, and she was just ripping it up. She made it to her second day GP, and that was pretty incredible. And like, you could literally see grown men cry getting destroyed by a 7-year-old kid with her dad sitting by her side, shuffling her cards because her hands were too small. So
That's
I
what I have to
really,
do for you for
Wanna
my
be
cat
Blake?
deck.
oh my God, yeah. Well, and I think
Doesn't
that's
he
a
want to
good
be there?
segue for
Dad, I
Blake.
want to be
Blake,
home. No, shut up. You're playing Magic now. But Dad.
yeah, that's probably a good segue for Blake to take it away on his
Yeah,
deck. Speaking of cat deck, because
yeah,
Jesus, that thing is just a beast.
yeah. We can talk about the cat deck. That's definitely that's my love child of a deck. I've put the most work into that and customized it. So my cat deck, I don't have all the details like
Zach
Zach
over
had
here trying to
there,
show us up.
but the commander is a Rabo, Roar of the World. So it's a 5/5 cat avatar for 3 green and a white. It has eminence, so at the beginning of combat on my turn, if a Rabo is in the command zone or on the battlefield, I can give another cat +3/+3 until end of turn. And then it also has an ability that if a Rabo is on the battlefield, whenever another cat you control attacks, I can pay 1 a green and a white. And if I do, that cat will gain trample and get +X, where X is its power. So it just doubles it up and makes it huge. Um, this is like my definition of like a battle cruiser Blake kind of deck. Come on. Sorry, my cat is bumping into my mic while I'm trying to talk about my cat deck. Um, so before I go into like the deck itself, I'll say I have to shuffle it for Zach because I've triple sleeved it. Because it is my baby, so it's got the double or the inner sleeves, and then the outer sleeves, uh, or the regular sleeves are from a buddy of mine. He got me custom sleeves that have the a picture of my 3 cats on the back of the sleeve, and then I put an outer sleeve to protect my fancy sleeves. So it's all sleeved up. The deck is double the size of pretty much every other deck at the table.
So basically, if you don't have meat cleavers for hands, you're not gonna have a good time shuffling it.
You got to shuffle it in sections. It's kind of a pain in the butt when you play a cultivate and you have to shuffle the thing
Oh
up
my
over and
God.
over again. There's too many search effects for how big that deck is. But this is definitely like, I mean, we make the joke, but I am like the battle cruiser player. So just having the cats, which I'm obsessed with cats, and then just a real big beatdown deck, and then in the original Arabo deck, there was a lot of equipment, so there are cats that really care about equipment, so I did kind of lean into that as well. So it has all of my swords of blah 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 in there. The only 2 I'm missing are the green blue one, which I think is Body in Mind, because I just don't really care to have that one in there because the mill does nothing for me. And Fire and Ice, because Modern made that card expensive, and I don't want to pay $50 for that sword. But I did get my Feast and Famine because that's a Commander All-Star. But I have all the swords. Um, I have some fun equipment like Kasari Gama, which is like a random thing from one of the Kamigawa sets that it says whenever the equipped creature becomes blocked, it deals damage equal to its power to each other creature that your opponents control, the blocking opponents control. So it's a way to kind of wipe the board if someone wants to block, and they're going to want to block because most of the time I'm going to be swinging in with like a 2020 cat or something along those lines. Um, it does have, some pretty fancy cards in there. Like I got my Sylvan Library in there and my Great Henge. That's one of the decks that I really put a lot of investment into. And I just have so much fun playing with that deck because it's just like I just want to let my kitties eat and just smash on people because it's like some of the big highlight cards that I can name off the top of my head. I even put like a Savannah Lions in there just because nostalgia. But some of the big ones are um, Armored Sky Hunter. It's I believe, a 3/3 flying cat that says when it attacks, you get to look at the top 6 cards of your library and then pick an aura or an artifact from among them or equipment from among them and put it on the battlefield attached to Armored Sky Hunter. It has happened in maybe a couple games, but I have been able to pull off Colossification, which is the big uh, enchantment that when it enters the battlefield, it would tap the creature, but it doesn't care if it's already tapped and attacking, and it gives it +20/+20. And the art has a big old orange cat on there, so it definitely goes with the theme. But hitting that and then being able to pump, I can hit someone for 40 with trample, which is just chef's kiss. Um, what else is in there? I mean, the equipment is really fun. Like having all the swords are really fun. Some of them are a little bit of a non-bow because if it gives it protection from white or green, I can't pump it. But that really doesn't matter. The second ability gets around that because it doesn't actually target the other attacking creature. It just says it sees a cat attacking, and you can pay to just double its power and toughness. Um, it has Lost Leonin because every deck that it has to have a little bit of infect. And if I can get a Lost Leonin down on turn,
Quick, like,
um,
send it 10 times fast. Go.
Lost Lolly Lola Lolly Lolly Lola. um, if I can get Lost Leonin down on turn 2, I can take out a player on turn 4 because it's a 2/1 cat with infect, and Arabo will make it a 5/4 or a 5/4. Hit you for 5 infect, hit you for 5 infect again, you're dead. Um, that the deck is definitely like super powerful and it's pretty resilient. There were so many good additions in like Ikoria and I mean Almond Kitty Cat has some good cat deck synergies in there. Let me pull up my cat deck list. It's not been updated in a little while, but I also have Kahira as the companion just because it there's only cats in there. And then I also have all of the secret lair, like the chibi cat art and all that stuff. Um, which is just such cute art. Like the Regal Caracal is probably my favorite just because it's 3 black cats on the picture, and that's what I've got is my 3 black cats. Um Return of the Wild Speaker is a beast in that deck. Um all the swords, Aura Shards is great, Mirari's Wake, Growing Rights of Itlamok.
Just a lot of just casual green-white cards that are
Yeah,
just generally good in a green-white
yeah,
token deck that spans.
exactly. Yeah, it's just I mean, oh yeah, one of my favorite cards too is Pride of Lions. It's a 4/4 4/4 cat that says it can assign combat damage as though it weren't blocked. So if you strap up some swords to it, it just doesn't care if you block it. It's gonna get the triggers from the swords of blah blah blah. Um, Blackblade Reforged is a beast. Uh, Jareth, Leon, and Titan. It's pretty overly costed, but it's a 4/7 that when it blocks, it gets +7/+7, and you can give it for white, you can give it protection from a color, so that's a good deterrent of keeping people away from me. Wild Nakatl is like a newer addition that I added to that, which is I believe let me pull that one up here quick. Oh, it was not Wild Nakatl. Shit. Um oh, it's Nakatl. Just edit all this out. Nakatl War Pride, my apologies. So it is a 4/4 or sorry, a 3/3 cat. It says Wild Nacatl must be blocked by exactly one creature if able. And when when Nodle, oh gosh, it is too early. Whenever Nacatl War Pride attacks, put X tokens into play, tapped and attacking, that are copies of Nacatl War Pride, where X is the number of creatures defending player controls. Remove the tokens from the game at the end of turn. So basically, it's a way that, like, let's say, I mean, you're playing Modern, but if you have a bunch of elves out, Zach, I can make that many cats that are 3/3s that are gonna get definitely buffed because I have a bunch of cat lords um, in the deck to make all my cats bigger, and they're just gonna have to 1v1 all of my Nacatl War Prides.
Yeah, it's pretty gross if you see it up front for what it is. It's pretty tough to deal with.
Yeah, the deck is definitely it's a very fun deck to pilot. If you didn't have to shuffle it, um,
You mean
it'd
your
be
fucking
more
cinder
fun.
block of a deck? It has to be at least like what 8 inches tall at this point.
Yeah, it might be taller.
I know it's not like a foot tall, but yeah.
But yeah, it's a really fun deck. I mean, when these guys see that I'm playing a Rabo, I tend to be the target just because they know what the deck has done. Even though,
Yeah.
like, it's a glass cannon, but it's a big glass cannon, I'll tell you that. um but yeah, I think that's pretty much it. There's not any really fun tricksy stuff that I put in this one. It's pretty straightforward, which is, as Zach saw last night, we were playing a little 1v1 commander. That's how I like to build, is just straightforward beat you down decks. But it definitely has a lot of more of the staple-y type of cards, but also it's cats, and so it's like just a fucking, it's just a beaut. It's a beaut. These kitties purr, I'll tell you that.
I hate you.
Brody?
I hate you so much. All right. So I've been playing Commander for about a couple years now. I've played a little Modern, Highlander, Standard. Recently got in and out of Pioneer because they killed my girl. But right now, I guess, and he's a pretty recent commander. He came out this year. It's Lannis, cryptozoologist, and I'm a huge cryptozoologist. I'm huge into cryptids. Love that shit. If I could make serious cash, I would totally be a cryptozoologist. But there's only so much I can bullshit about finding Bigfoot shit in the woods. But let's go over Lannis here. Lannis is a legendary elf snake scout. So already one of my favorite creature types, snake. He is snack. For green and for a green and a blue, you get a 2/1 that says whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, investigate. Tap and sacrifice X clues. Target opponent reveals the top X cards of his or her library. You may put a non-land permanent card with mana value X or less from among them onto the battlefield under your control. That player then puts the rest in the bottom of their library in a random order. So, when I saw this, I looked, I'm like, how many cards are in blue and green and that have investigate? And I looked, and there are quite a few, but a lot of them are bad. Like, a lot of them are trash. Like, yeah, we got like Tireless Tracker and Wave Sifter, which is just a fucking bomb-ass card where Wave Sifter says when it enters the battlefield, investigate twice. So if you have Lannis, that's 3 clues, but it also has Evoke. Shrieking Drake is an all-star in this because if you just get Urza out and you have Lannis, you just have infinite clues. And then there's win cons with that. Where is this counter spell? La-da-dee, la-da-do, la-da-da. No, it's a sorcery. I'm sorry, yeah. But we have stuff like a Root Out, which is 2 and a green for destroy target artifact or enchantment, investigate. It's not that bad. There are better removal spells for artifacts and enchantments. There's
Brody likes to investigate.
Yeah, but there's Gone Missing, all right? So this is a sorcery. It is 4 and a blue, and it's put target permanent on top of its owner's library, investigate. Now, I use this just to, like, bounce value creatures from my field back onto my deck, which is pretty good. You investigate and you draw and do it again. But if you really need to, this is a 5 mana snap that investigates. You need to think about how bad that is in Commander, all right? Now later,
Pretty
I'm
bad.
in blue and green. Later in the game, that's fine, but that's bad. There's also like 1 in the blue. Tap target creature doesn't tap until its controller's next on tap step. Investigate. There's weird cards like that just you get incidental value from and that make clue tokens. I wish this guy had partner or something or more colors so I could add a lot more clues. But there's a combo I discovered the other day when playing this bad boy online that so if you have Tamio's Journal out, and Tamio's Journal is the best card in this deck. If I'm ever tutoring, which I don't, there aren't a whole lot of tutors in this deck that I possess, except for like Fabricate and Mystical Tutor, and I think Worldly Tutor. But the point of this deck is you're running like 2 CMC card costs, and then one of your win cons is either Rise and Shine, which target non-creature artifact you control becomes a 0/0 artifact creature. Put 4 +1/+1 counters on each artifact. They be artifact creature. You create a target artifact, becomes a 0/0, gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control, and you can overload it for 4 and 2 blue. So when you have like 20 clue tokens out, and you all make them like 20/20s, well, that's pretty much GG. But Tamio's Journal reads, at the beginning of your upkeep, investigate. All right, standard's pretty good for a 5 mana artifact that does that. Does nothing until your upkeep. But then it has tap, sacrifice 3 clues, search your library for a card, and put that card into your hand. So it's just a tutor card. And what I'll typically get is, so if I have Inspiring Statuary out, 3 mana artifact, non-artifact creatures you control have improvise, and improvise is basically you can tap artifacts to create generic mana. So what I'll do is I'll tap 3 clues, tap the journal, then I'll sacrifice those 3 clues that I've tapped for 3 generic mana, float that mana, get Academy Manufacturer, use that 3 mana to then play him, then I'll get a clue off Lannis, which will then create a food and a treasure token. And that's just such great value for this deck. Where is this? Here we go. So one of my win cons is doing that whole Urza thing with Lannis and Shrieking Drake, but then having Fleeting Memories out. So I just make infinite treasures, and Fleeting Memories is an enchantment that goes 2 and a blue. When Fleeting Memories enters the battlefield, investigate. All right. Whenever you sacrifice a clue, target opponent puts the top 3 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. So you make like 10,000 clues and then mill out the table.
Which is a hilarious way to take the game away.
By the way, this deck has never lost, and that's because I run 20 lands, and I run a lot. Like, a lot of this deck is mana dorks too, because Lannis is a 2-drop, so you run a lot of elves, and you just try to get that incremental value of just getting a lot of clues, and then you draw a lot. So my mana curve is very low. But a lot of times the guys just see me, it's like, oh, Brody, you playing Lannis? Yep, this deck's never lost. Oh, you just make clues, you steal stuff off our deck. It's Villainous Wealth without the black, so it's a lot worse, and it's not a creature. We're going to ignore you and fight each other. Brody, you draw anything? Yes. I present my infinite. I win. By turn 28 because everybody else has ignored me. That's what we like to call a Brody factor right there, lads.
I like it.
All right, Blake, you hear that? So it's never lost. So now it's our next mission. Next time we play Commander with Brody, we got to go for the throat.
You're going to forget. You won't remember.
We're going to have a
a
favorite Commander deck showdown.
Yeah. But yeah, for anybody out there who's like, oh, I'm looking to build a Commander deck that's cheap, like, this is a very budget-friendly deck because I think the most expensive card in here is probably Urza?
Well, if you have
Nope, wait.
Urza, yeah.
Cloudstone Curio is pretty expensive too.
Oh yeah.
Cloudstone's like $60 right now.
But I mean,
So
just those two wouldn't really like
that's
proxy
how.
him up for a minute.
Yeah, no, that's like that's $100 right there. But then everything else is like, oh yeah, if you have like Growing Rights of Iklamok, Leyline of Leyline's cheap now actually. Rhystic Study, Sylvan Library, stuff like that. Yeah, include them. But like, if you're just building this deck straight up, it's so cheap and it's so cost effective. And the fact that it's in 2 colors and like, I think the highest curve spell I have is probably the Overload spell, and then a couple like my finishers, which are like at 8 mana. But you generate so much just generic colorless mana, and you have so many mana dorks, so that doesn't become a problem. But
Yeah,
this deck also has a sub theme of like ETBs. So I'm running like Panharmonicon, so I get like 2 triggers on everything. And Lannis is making 2 clues. Like
Nice.
I've played against this one too, and it's an interesting deck, and it's like, I mean, it does have that factor of like, we're just gonna ignore. He's just making clues, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, all these clues are 4/4s.
Brody, how
Oh
much
boy.
clues do you have? I have 80. It's
Oh
like my
no.
Xeris deck where you've ignored me because you're drawing cards, and I don't seem that big of a threat because you're drawing cards. And then you look over at the D20, and that one snake token has 4 D20s on it.
I don't know how it works out that like I put 4 cats on the battlefield, and everyone's
Yep.
like, oh my god, he's the threat. But then Brody's over there with 20 treasures or 20 clues, and they're like, oh, Brody's fine.
Because my clues can't hold a fucking sword of feast and famine, Blake.
Yeah, that's
Clues
true.
don't have arms to hold swords.
Until they do.
Until they... Okay, that's what... There's a few cards that do that, all right? But like the Panharmonicon Pedigree Drake, where I untap 10 lands. Will I ever have 10 lands untapped? Probably not. But like putting out Amphibious Mutineer and blowing up 2 things, or playing a Venser, getting 2 triggers to then bounce like 2 small elves, tapping them for mana, and then replaying them to generate a total of like 8 clues in 1 turn is unbelievable.
And
Or
then he's
like,
just gonna Villainous Wealth off the top of my deck.
yes.
With
This deck
all
has
his
like a lot.
clues.
Like the base of this deck, you can boil it down to like clues, low mana, like low curve, cheap spells, untappers, bounce, and then ETBs. And it's weird in that way to where all these things, there's just enough of them to where these things work and they're very synergistic. To where I'm just playing one thing and then I'm getting 4 different triggers and then play those again and generate enough mana to do it twice in a row. And then untop Lannis a couple of times. And I'm also running like a couple of the equipments that you attach to Lannis and he untaps, or I'm running like Illusionist Bracers too to just get multiple triggers on that. But there have been combos where I've just made infinite clues and untap and stolen a person's entire deck. But yeah, that's Lannis. He's a good cheap commander that has a fun build path, and out of the 18 decks, I've narrowed it down to 3 that I really like, and I'll talk about like my Tatiova deck, which is one of my favorites, or Tulsimir. But that's the problem with having so many decks, is that you could have so many things you enjoy playing.
Brody, instead of the Keeper of Kozilek, I think you're like the Sultan of Simic or something.
How many do I play though? Well, yeah, Kozilek's one of my favorite too, but like, I don't, that's the thing about having quote unquote big fun or big quote unquote powerful decks, is that people see like Kozilek and you immediately get targeted down. But when I play Lannis, nobody really it's like, oh, you're making clues. All right, yeah, I'm gonna ignore you. And then Lannis pops off and it's like, what the fuck happened? I wasn't expecting this. What the hell?
What Simic deck can I make to have just the ultimate value train?
I think that'd just be Tatiova at that point.
Lannis is the same thing.
Lannis is not letting me draw a card whenever I play a land, all right?
All right, let's move on. Zach, you want to talk about a commander deck? One of 2?
Yeah, sure. Why not? All right. So
Or you
sure.
can talk about Mill if you want. That's fine. Whatever your favorite is.
Yeah, you guys. I'm just more into modern. Modern's just my thing. Like I love playing Commander with the boys, and that's fine and all. And it is another love labor, but modern is my jam for sure. So I'll talk about my mill deck, and hopefully we'll be making a new commander deck here. I think Hippogriff, as we talked about last time. So
Heck
we're
yeah.
kind of putting that in the works. By the way, so for my mill deck, it's not gonna I'm not gonna go into as much detail like I did with elves, but basically you have 8 crabs that mill an opponent for 3 for each land that's dropped, and then you're gonna have a bunch of other mill cards that basically your objective is just to mill them out before they can smoke you in the face. So basically, there's nothing in there that's going to do damage to anybody. So basically, I'm just hoping to God they're not playing a creature heavy deck that's really just going to blow my tempo out of the water. So
Yeah. I mean that deck. I'll talk about my experience with that one. Um, uh, I mean, I've seen you do, or you've talked about the Tron Killer, which is Field of Ruining, whatever it is.
Field of Ruin.
Field of Ruin. You do it to one of the Tron lands, and then you surgical extraction their Tron land, so that way they can never have Tron online, which is hilarious if that could happen. There was also that game I watched you play where you had what 6 crabs out or something like that.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
I don't know if you remember this, but I've only played this deck. I was testing out my Sultai, quote unquote, dredge. I wanted to play Tassikar in Modern, and I wanted to play that Unearth card, or it brings back, or no, Persist. So I had like Inkwell Leviathans and all these stupid like non-legendary things. I played one game against you, and you saw immediately what I was doing. You're like, I'm not playing against you, Brody. I'm like, why? What's wrong? You don't want to go against 3 Inkwell Leviathans?
Yeah, it's bad for business, Brody.
I have no idea what you're talking about. That deck never won anything, by the way. It was too slow. I thought it'd be a great matchup against Living End. I was wrong.
Arrow.
Was very wrong.
Yeah, I mean, and then I don't know. Again, I don't know the meta very well, but the fact that I like the trick that you do when you Field of Ruin someone and then you archive trap them, and so you make them search, that way you can cast it for 0.
I saw him
And
kill somebody doing that once, where he did it.
yeah,
He had all 4 in his hand, and he made them Field of Ruin, and he blew them out of the water.
yeah, he does that to me all the time when we play. I mean, I'm playing a tier 1 deck and he still mills me out, and I'm like, come on, man.
What
And
do you
that's
do
why I
against,
do it.
if you go against the Living End deck? What do you do at that point?
You play your heart out and know you're gonna lose in the end.
You keep your counter spell up. That's about it. You keep counter spell up because that's all you can do.
Yeah, I mean it's very fragile. It is a glass cannon. It's super easy to get around, but I mean I find it hilarious.
It is really fun to watch, and it's just like I mean, I absolutely hate getting milled. So it's like, because I don't play a lot of graveyard recursion in like anything, which I know I should, but I don't. But it's just like, oh, and there goes that card I'm never gonna see again. There goes that, and there.
And I will be honest with you guys. So I do feel bad when I play that deck against like less competitive people. I mean, it's not even a good deck, but like with less competitive people, yeah, you do feel bad because they don't really have too much to do about it. But like, I'll tell you what, like when I'm going against like Oscar or any of his buddies, oh boy, do I love when I just get to freaking like triple archive somebody and just destroy their whole deck turn freaking 1. It's like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah, it does seem like I mean, I don't know. It seems like it'd be pretty decent against like the elementals, like the money pile deck and stuff like that.
I'm gonna fetch. Why? You're gonna put 40 cards in your graveyard? What? No, I'm fetching. Are you? Oh, I guess I'm dead.
Unless they're playing Urion, because then they have 80 cards. But still,
Yes, the Urion matchup. that's where you get like oh shit, what the hell is that? Is it Staff of Domination where you pay a mana and you untap it? You pay
Yeah.
2. Yeah, you just have Arcane Trap on that and just.
Yeah, that would be hilarious.
All right. Well, I think I'll move on to my next deck, and I'm having a little bit of a debate here on what to talk about. I think I'm gonna go with the Dragon because this is definitely
Nice.
like one of my babies. So this is when I first started playing Commander, I started playing around Throne of Eldraine when I started like actually building Commander decks. So the first one I bought, and like I had a precon was my first one, and it was the token Naya token one, and I was like, oh, this is cool. I'm gonna try and build my own. And that's about the time the secret lair for the 5-color commanders or the 5-color kaleidoscope killers came out. So the Dragon, Sliver Overlord, and the Reaper King, and I was like, oh, I am building this Dragon. This is amazing. I guess I like the Eminence, except Edgar Markov. But so that the Dragon is a big beefy boy. It is 4 and Wooburg, so 9 mana for a 10/10 dragon avatar with Eminence. So as long as Dragon is in the command zone or on the battlefield, all my dragons cost 1 less. Flying, and then whenever 1 or more dragons you control attack, draw that many cards, then you may put a permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield. So when I built this deck originally, when you first get into like building commander decks and stuff like that, and really early on in Magic, most people, I feel like, you're like, oh, I'm not going to pay over like $1 for a card and stuff like that because it just feels a little bit ridiculous. But this was the one where I was like, I'm going to put a little money into it. And I put $75 into this deck. I went on Card Kingdom and the EDH rec, and I was like, okay, I'm going to find some really sweet dragons for $1.
See, you laugh, but back when like the Wilhelt and the Kyler decks came out, I dropped about $200 on each of those.
Sure.
I don't.
Hey, and I'll tell you what. Money is not everything in Magic, you guys. So
No,
if you
it's
guys
not.
are just starting, starting out, you guys can rock it out for under $100 easy. I mean, minus the commander, right? Honestly, you guys can really pull some weight with some really cheap cards. You just have to know how to work it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, this dragon deck that I had, so it's definitely gone through some iterations, but the first one that I built was such a beast, and like I still use a lot of them. Like a Tarka World Render is still in there that gives all your attacking dragons double strike. Bladewing the Risen, when it enters the battlefield, return a dragon permanent from your graveyard to the battlefield. Like some of these ones are still cheap. And I definitely like there's some that I don't have in the deck. Like the new D&D stuff. The ones that like roll a D20 when they do combat damage.
Behold, my red dragon attacks. I roll a D20. I make 20 treasures.
Yeah. And
your
this
move,
is also
Yugi boy.
I also bought like Dragon Tempest when they were like $2, and now they're up to $12 because of all that stuff.
Good investment.
Good investment there. But so this deck has gone through many iterations. I actually took it apart at one point and then rebuilt it. But I mean, it's a pretty straightforward. I guess I'm talking about my favorite decks are tribal decks, but the Dragon is so fun. I mean, having that ability to get your dragons cheaper and get them out faster is a huge beast. There's a newer one. It's I think it's Hellkite Courser. I think it was in Commander Legend, so not that new, but newer. When it enters the battlefield, you get to pull your commander from the command zone and put it on the battlefield, and it gains haste. So just putting the Dragon, cheating it out, getting out, and then being able to swing. And when you can pull like some huge, because that attack trigger is amazing, and I'm working on finding a spot for. It's not a dragon, but the Ishin, the of Two Heavens or whatever that is from Kamigawa. It will double up the attack triggers, and being able to do that. So the deck it's based around putting out dragons and attacking with them. Pretty straightforward. But it's got like Sullumgar, the Drifting Death, so that like whenever a dragon attacks, creatures defending player get -1/-1. So it's a way to take out creatures. Ujitai, Soul of Winter.
I
Whenever a
love that card.
whenever a dragon you control attacks, tap target permanent and opponent controls. That permanent does not untap during its controller's untap step. I
I'm
got
going to keep hitting you.
yeah.
And I'm going to keep
And I
hitting
mean,
you until my I'm going to keep hitting until my
that
arm
card can
expires.
be absolutely
Why?
brutal. Like, I mean, that card can really just shut down somebody's deck.
Yeah, it definitely can. And like I have the Scion of the Ur-Dragon, but I don't do any Scion shenanigans really, other than maybe getting something that will give my creature like hexproof, like one of the Ujitai or Shimmer Dragon or something along those lines. It has a lot of legendary dragons, so I definitely put in Piru the Voltile from Modern Horizons 2. It's 2 red, white, black. Flying lifelink 7/7. At the beginning of your upkeep, you have to sacrifice it unless you pay Mardu colors, and then when it dies, it deals 7 damage to each non-legendary creature. So that's a way for me to wipe the board, and it's sweet because it looks at the last line of, or it looks at like its last abilities when it died. So for every creature that it deals 7 damage to, I gain that much life because it has lifelink. So it's a way to like boost my life total back up. Lathless is a monster of a dragon queen. Whenever another dragon or whenever a non-token dragon enters the battlefield, you get to make a 5/5 dragon token. Just super overpowered. Especially when you're dropping them like crazy. Morophon is in there. Just because it can help me get out my dragons that much quicker. I used to have the Morophon and Joda like combination where Joda makes everything cost Wooburg, and Morophon makes everything cost all dragons cost Wooburg less, and so you can just drop all the dragons from your hand. Um,
Yeah,
that
that's just gross.
it was real gross, yeah. And then I've got like I have a Tainted Strike in here just for that one time I get to hit with the Ur Dragon and I can take someone out with Infect because always Infect. I did add there's like a bunch of orbs that were in the Forgotten Realms, I want to say. Or no, it was Commander Legends 2. There's a bunch of 3 mana rocks that add a mana of like one color and then give you something when you cast a dragon spell. Like I think the blue one lets you scry, the red one maybe gives haste or something along those lines. Those, I mean, they're not like the greatest mana rocks because you do need a lot of mana fixing since it's 5 color, but I mean, Zach has seen this deck in action. I'm sure Brody you have too, where it's just like there are times when I don't do much. It's like everything's too expensive, or there are times when I've popped off, like if I can get that Hellkite Courser going and just pop off like crazy. I've also got a Lurking Predators in the deck, so whenever an opponent it's an enchantment that says whenever an opponent casts a spell, reveal the top card of my library. If it's a creature card, put it on the battlefield. Otherwise, you can put it on the bottom.
Yeah, that card is awesome.
It's
Love
so good. It's so good, man. It's any way you can cheat out big old Dargans, I'm all about it. I got the minion of the mighty in there too. It's a 0/1 kobold with menace. For 1 mana. It says whenever it attacks, if you attacked with creatures with total power 6 or greater, you can put a dragon creature from your hand onto the battlefield tapped and attacking.
Tapped in it. Oh my god, what?
Yeah. Steel
Oh, man.
Hellkite, Utvara Hellkite. Whenever a dragon attacks, you make 6/6 dragons for it's a dragon deck. I'll tell you that. It's super dragony dragons. It's gonna be a dragony dragon deck. I got Belby's Portal in there. It's an artifact that when it enters the battlefield, you choose a creature type, and then you can pay 3 and tap to put a creature card from the chosen type from your hand onto the battlefield. It's all about cheating mana cost in this one. Hymn of Rebirth is like an old card from Ice Age that no one uses because it's too expensive, but it's a reanimate spell for 3 white and a green. It just says take a creature from any graveyard and put it under your control as though it was just summoned.
Any graveyard, you guys.
Any
Not
graveyard.
just your graveyard, not his graveyard, anyone.
So
Hold on, that's a green and white. You gotta get me one of these.
Yeah, it's a 25-cent card. I picked up like 7 of these things when I had a chance to, because I was like, these are going in anything that plays green white, because I don't care if it's 5 mana. I'm gonna take the biggest, scariest thing in someone's graveyard. Primeval's Glorious Rebirth is cool too. It's a legendary sorcery that returns all legendary permanents from my graveyard to the battlefield. So that's my graveyard recursion in this one, because God knows that people are going to wipe the board when I have a bunch of big old flying lizards.
What is it? Do you run a Masswood Nexus in there?
I don't run Maskwood Nexus because everything is already a dragon pretty much, so it doesn't really feel necessary.
No. You run it, and then you say otters, so then you have otter dragons. I just like
Maskwood
otters
Nexus
right
just
now.
makes everything. I mean,
Yeah.
I used to run it that way, where I had like some angels, like a 7 mana one that like gives all your flying creatures indestructible, and the 6 one that says all of your flying creatures have vigilance. So I did do that at one point with the deck, but it was too dependent on having like a Maskwood Nexus or
Others things.
Xenographed or something that would change all of the creature types into one creature type.
Yeah.
And it was fun, but I was just like, well, now I'm missing out on, like, if I did that, I wouldn't be able to play Horde Smelter Dragon, which is a 5/5 flyer that says for 3 and a red, destroy target artifact. It gets plus X plus O, where X is that artifact's mana value. I mean, I would love to take out someone's giant, I don't know,
Eldrazi?
chromatic orrery.
And that is a cool way how you like to look at it, like an aspect of how to play the game, Blake. I always find that interesting that you're always like, well, I could be doing this instead. So you're always like willing to brew and find different ways to make something work. Same with Brody. You guys kind of have similar mindsets in that aspect, that you guys are really willing to
How
kind of play
stupid
with
can I
fire
make
to
this?
see what you can do.
Right. Find a different way to build it instead of how everyone else is building it.
All right. So,
but yeah, that's my dragon deck. Brody, what do you got for us?
well, let's round this out and do it with our final deck. And I've been talking about Wilhel, Xeris, Tassiker, Ptolemy,
I'm eating goldfish. I'm sorry.
But I think I don't play her too much because I can kind of have stupidly long turns, and it's fun. But it's Selvala Explorer Returned. For 1 green and a white, this is a 2/4 legendary Elf Scout. Selvala has Parlay. Tap. Each player reveals a top card of their library. For each non-land card revealed this way, add a green mana, and you gain 1 life. Then each player draws a card. So, I love Parlay. Just because it kind of gets everybody into the table, and I kind of try to include as many like parlay cards in the deck. But this is a mill deck. This is a green-white elf mill deck, and with an untapping sub theme. Now, a lot of times, like green-white isn't like the whole untapping or milling, but this deck where it's like, oh, I'm gonna parlay you to death. To where if I get it going and I have enough mana, I can just infinitely parlay somebody out or gain enough life to shoot him with Ether Flux Reservoir. So I have stuff like certain enchantment. Well, we have like Wirewood Symbiote, which is return an elf creature you control to its owner's hand. Untap target creature, activate this ability only once per turn, which is a huge combo piece in the deck. But then we have stuff that's just this instill energy. For 1 green, you have enchantment aura. Enchant creature. Enchant creature has haste. 0, untap enchant creature. Activate this ability once, only once during your turn. So
I
if I
freaking
have,
love that card. I love
know.
that card so much.
But it's so dumb in the deck where it's like, I want to play Selvala as soon as possible and make sure she has haste. So if I have Lightning Greaves, yeah, that's good. But when a lot of the elves just have like untapped target elf, like Seeker of Skybank, which is just tap untap target creature, or Vitalize, which is 1 green for an instant, which is untap all creatures, I can have explosive turns. But some of the key cards I am running are like 1,000-Year Elixir, which is 3 for an artifact. You may activate abilities of all creatures you control as though they were creatures with haste. So it doesn't give you haste, but it allows you to use your tap abilities, which is just amazing. But it's 1 tap this untap target creature. We have Umbral Mantle, which is one of my win cons. So with Selvala alone, if I'm generating 3 mana off each hit, so I have 3 out of 4 decks. If 3 of those are mana, then I can pay 3. Well, I'll talk about Umbral Mantle. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Umbral Mantle, 3 mana, equipment artifact. Equipped creature has 3. Untap this creature. It gets +2/+2 until end of turn. And its equip cost is 0. So if I'm getting 3 mana off everything, I'm gaining 3 life and I'm drawing a card, but I can also keep parlaying a lot of times. But if you put that with like something like a Priest of Titania, and its equip cost is 0, you just generate a bunch of mana, then you slide it over to Selvala, and you just parlay a bunch. Smothering Tides like is amazing in this deck as well, because when you're parlaying people, that's also another like. It's funny how like I was going through this deck, and there are so many just stupid combos that just continuously let me parlay.
Oh yeah, because you just get to draw a card.
Yeah. Are you gonna, when you're tapped out and I'm letting you draw a card, can't I have a treasure, man? Come on, are you really gonna pay 2 mana? I'll let you draw another card, right? If I'm sinking all this mana into parlaying, and it's that Xeris thing where it's like, he's just making a snake, but he's letting me draw like 4 cards. He's letting me draw a card. Yeah, he's gaining a little life, but dude, I get a free card? That's awesome. And it's a fun mini game. I trick you. You think that this is all fun and games. It's like, oh, look, we all reveal our cards. Ha, ha, ha. It's a good time, isn't it, buddy? Why does Brody have 80 treasure and 200 life? Why is my deck only 5 cards?
Kind of sounds like a deal with the devil there, Brody.
You made a mistake, game. Brody, I heard you milled us out in Selesnya. How the fuck do you do that?
Yeah,
but
I like Selvala. It's a fun deck to play against, and it sucks when you get comboed, but it's fun.
Yeah. I stopped, like, I played the deck for a long time, but at the same time too, it's like, hey, I'm taking like these 20-minute turns, and I know it's like, yeah, we're having fun, but a lot of times too, I'm not winning on those turns. It was just like the first iteration of the deck was like, all right, I'm not running many infinites except for like the Mantle and Titania. And that's the one, like, quote unquote, like, big infinite combo that wins out fast. And the point of the deck was to see how many times I could parlay on one turn. And when you're running stuff that untaps all your lands and you got like Seaborn Muse, and you're doing that on everybody's turn, it can be dumb. And Selvala can be really hard to get rid of, because it's like, okay, you're going to go to your parlaying, right? I'm going to Swords of Plowshare that. It's like, okay, well, in response, I'm going to pump 3 mana into the Mantle, untap Selvala, parlay again, and you keep doing that loop where if they try to target you, you just keep untapping. In response, you untap Selvala to then parlay again.
For sure.
Which, once she starts going, it's hard. It's like, hey, I lost Selvala, she just got exiled, but I just made you draw like 80 cards or something dumb. But one card that came out in the last year, which has been just amazing for the deck, is, I'm gonna butcher this, is Trelarsa.
Trelasara.
Yeah, Trelisara, a Moon Dancer. And that's from
Ooh,
Adventure.
exotic.
Yeah, it's Adventures in Forgotten Realm. She's a legendary elf cleric for a green and a white. She's a 2/2, but she says whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on Moon Dancer. I'm not gonna say her name and scry one.
Triskara.
But that's like the fact that with Selvala, you're always gonna be gaining life. You should be always gaining life. But that scry is so amazing to keep that combo going. So it's like, I need that green mana to keep Selvala going. I need a non-land card. Or it's like, I don't want this, but I want this to keep this going in Protector. So that information is amazing. I'm not running top in this deck either. Another one of the
Ooh.
well, I only have so many tops, all right?
More tops.
Hey, you want to buy
I'll
me
lend
another
you a top.
another one of the win cons is kind of weird is Sword of Pranos. It's 4 mana, artifact equipment. As long as equipped creature is tapped, tapped creature gets +2/+0. As long as equipped creature is untapped, it gets +2/+0. So it's like a good defense offense card. But you may pay 3, you may tap or untap equipped creature, equipped 3. So it's another one like one of those win cons where if I can just dump 3 mana into this bad boy, I can just keep tapping Selvala. And Staff of Domination too does work. It's a little bit more cost effective, but when I get enough mana to just it's still like I need 4 mana, but if I'm generating infinite mana, it just lets me draw my entire deck.
For sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite cards in this deck, though, a lot of the good cards in this deck are actually artifacts. So that's like another weird sub theme. Is I have a lot of like artifact protection. Like I think it's Leonin Arbiter that gives all your artifacts hexproof.
Yeah, that's annoying.
Yeah, especially when you throw like lightning greaves on that son of a gun, and then you put like a dark steel plated on him. What are you gonna do? Can't blow up anything. But here, one of my favorite cards, and it's from Kamigawa, which is one of my favorite sets, is Uba Mask. It's 4 mana. It's an artifact. This one isn't an equipment. If a player would draw a card, that player removes that card from the game face up instead. Each player may play cards he or she removed from the game with Uba Mask this turn. So, if I have Uba Mask out and I'm doing my shenanigans, you're not actually drawing those cards. You have to play those cards right now, or they're gone
man.
forever.
That's so rough.
And I've done this before where I've made people draw like 40 cards and then they're just gone.
That's so good. That's like a scroll rack type of thing.
Yeah, but the thing is too, it's like it's not exiled. They're just out of the game. So if I'm hitting people's like Crater Hoofs or massive draw spells or Ristic Studies or ways for them to kill Selvala, like if I get rid of 20 cards, that's 60 cards that aren't going to be targeted towards me. Uba Mask is an all-star in this deck. And if I have a way of tutoring in this deck, like for artifacts, there aren't many ways that just get that. I'm getting that. But it's just so good. And then I'm playing like Horn of Greed and 2 of the other favorite enchantments I have. Like Leyline of Abundance is so good in this deck. Like Zach, you probably run this. Oh no, I don't know if you run this in your elf deck, but it's a Leyline. It's an enchantment for 2 green. It has the same Leyline text. If it's in your opening hand, reveal it and you can play it. But its ability is whenever you tap a creature for mana, add an additional green mana. So that doesn't work with Selvala's ability because that's a triggered and static effect in layers. But with the elves, if I can get an elf that's tapping for like Llanowar Visionaries or something like that, or Rishkar, or who is the elf nurturing lady? What's her name? The legendary creature.
Morrowind the Nurturer.
Yeah, you get Lorwyn out. It's so good. Just generating that mana, just keep myself going.
Maybe I should just run the ley lines too then. Why not?
Maybe
you have more mana dorks than elves.
Yeah, for modern, I don't know. I feel like that'd be too slow, just because it's
you have to have it in your opening
hand. It's 4 mana, and at that point, is generating the extra green mana gonna be that's something you gotta do. But another one of these, I just discovered this card a couple like weeks ago when like retooling this deck. Is an enchantment called Awakening. It's 2 green enchantment at the beginning of each player's upkeep. Oh, I can't read today. Untap all creatures and lands. So this is a more expensive Seaborn Muse, but I feel like this is a more protected Seaborn Muse, because Seaborn Muse is a creature, and there's a lot of creature removal. Enchantment removal, not as much. And then you can do, it's like, if you have Seaborn Muse and Awakening, you can layer those too, where it's like, all right, so Awakening's up, gonna do all the shenanigans. All right, done my shenanigans. You've all gotten rid of 40 cards. Untap with Seaborn Muse. Guess what, guys? We're going again. Let's see how deep I can go into this. And at the beginning, everybody's like, oh, this is so fun. Parlay is so good. Bro, this is a fun deck. After 20 minutes and you've drawn like 30 cards, like, all right, bro, you need to stop. What are you talking about? Stopping
too many slices.
But in the deck too, I have upgraded the deck too to be like, all right, there's the slow burn, which is the parlay, which is how I would like to win. But it's like, at times too, it's like I need like an infinite combo to win. So there's like Altar of Dementia with Safi's Eric's Daughter and Karmic Guide, and I'll just read those where it goes: Altar of Dementia, 2 mana, artifact, sacrifice a creature, target player puts the number of cards equal to that sacrifice creature's power from the top of their deck into the graveyard. So it mills you based on power. Safi's Eric's Daughter is a legendary human scout for a green and a white 2/2. Sacrifice Safi's Eric's Daughter. When target creature is put into the graveyard, this turn, return that card from the return that card to the battlefield. So you sacrifice Safi, get a card back. You got Karmic Guide. Karmic Guide is a Angel Spirit 2/2 for 3 white, flying, protection from black, has Echo 3 white at the beginning of your upkeep. If this card is under your control since the beginning of your last upkeep, sacrifice it unless you pay its Echo cost, which you're never going to be doing. But Karmic Guide has this little ability called when Karmic Guide enters the battlefield, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So basically, you both basically just sacrifice them both, and you just mill everybody out. And then I just have a way of like just getting that infinite mana I need to untap Selvala, which is Argothian Elder, Jungle Basin, and Wirewood Lodge. Argothian Elder is 3 and a green. Summon Elf. He's for Mirza's buddy. He's an oldie. He is untap 2 target lands, which just in that deck too is fairly good too. If I'm untapping like Ancient Tomb and my dual land. But Jungle Basin enters battlefield tapped. When Jungle Basin enters the battlefield, sacrifice it unless you return an untapped forest you control to its owner's hand. And it is tapped. You add a colorless and a green. And Wirewood Lodge is just a great elf card where it adds 1 mana, but it also is green and untap target elf. So you basically just make infinite mana with these. And that's my way of just, if I don't have the mana, or I don't have like another one of my big mana dorks, this is another win con in my lands, which are harder to get rid of. But yeah, and then there's like other dumb combos I could go into in the green-white, like the 5 mana one, which is Boneweaver Giant and a Pattern of Rebirth with Karmic Guide and Revel Arc and Fiend Hunter to just destroy everything and make people sad.
Yeah, so it's pretty much just a green-white combo deck, but it definitely is you built it in a way that you want to deal with you want to go with the parlay stuff. Not
I would
necessarily
much
win with the
rather parlay into Uba Mask for 40 cards for each person. But yeah, she's a fun little card. She is a bit more like when you're building it and you're getting up there, you do need a lot more like of the expensive cards, but like I think it's worth it if you're looking for an out of the box that isn't like just green or isn't like blue, red, or black X combo decks. I recommend this. It can be fast, and if you're just looking for like a good, you can go parlay tribal with this thing too. There aren't that many good parlay cards, but the ones that are out there are fun. Like where I create elephants based on parlay. No one likes this one. What is it called here? Let's see if I can find this son of a gun. EDH Rec. Show me your... Yeah, Selvalla's Stampede. 4 green sorcery. Council's Dilemma. Starting with you, each player votes wild or free, reveals cards from the top of their library. This is not parlay. I was wrong. It's not it. I'll continue reading. Reveals top cards from your library until you reveal a creature card. For each wild vote, put those creatures onto the battlefield, or put creatures cards from my hand on the battlefield. and the rest of the library. Basically, it's either I
all
take
right,
cards.
guys. All right, we're
No,
gonna
fine,
like,
fine.
share,
It's a
and
flawless
subscribe.
charge. 4 and a green parlay. Each player
Like,
reveals top card of their deck. For
share,
each
subscribe.
non-land card revealed this way, you put a
Leave a
green element
comment.
creature on
Tell
the
us if you like
battlefield.
this style. We're gonna see you next time. We got to get out of here, and we're
Oh,
gonna
finale
stop
of
Brody
Glory.
before he keeps talking about more
So,
infinite
but-
combo stuff. So,
Oh,
see
no,
you
let me
He's
tell
gonna
you
keep
about
talking in the
Nature's Order.
background
All
while
right,
we're
so
doing this.
Nature's
So
Order,
everybody have a good day while Brody finishes his
Yeah,
rant.
he's gonna keep going. We're gonna end it here, and bye.
I'll
Bye.
never be silenced.